So good afternoon, everyone. And afternoon, I guess it's depending on where you live, it might be afternoon, it might be morning. So we are very excited to have a fantastic group of individuals who are NAPA members who are in the insurance and financial services industry. And these individuals have very different roles that they play within the industry. And so this is a great opportunity to really learn about all the different facets that you can get into as far as a career in insurance and financial services. So we've got Cheryl Canzanella, John D. Richardson, Derek Scheetz, and Mimie Yoon-Lee here with us today. And I will turn it over to them and kind of tell you a little bit more about themselves and what their current job is in the industry. And then we'll kind of talk about, how their career path has changed and, marketing yourself and finding the right place for you. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our speakers.
So let's go ladies first. Cheryl, then Mimie, and then
Sure.
Mr. Mustache and I will pick up the tail end of our lineup. Is that fair?
Fair enough.
All right.
Well, afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Cheryl Canzanella, and I am a retirement solution specialist for Fairway Independent Mortgage. And I'll tell you a little bit about my career path and how I got to a mortgage company via way of insurance and in financial services for the last 23 years. But I am a graduate of Palm Beach Atlantic University, go Sailfish, in Florida. I currently live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I basically fell into this industry, 20 something years ago. Like many of you, trying just to figure out which direction I'm going. And I was honestly just happy to have a great person hire me and give me a steady paycheck. I knew nothing about the industry. I had no idea what a stock or bond was, but here I am 22 years later or 23 years later. And for the last 10 years, I've dedicated my practice specifically towards helping financial advisors with the sale of insurance, disability insurance, life insurance, long-term care, annuities or income planning. So what my role was to really help them, help financial advisors with their clients, whether or not that's through coming up with ideas for cases and concepts and sales planning, designing cases, basically offering our insurance products to them. So I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And in my new role, I have found by way of the insurance company, is still being in the retirement solutions area. And I specifically help individuals with utilizing home equity and incorporating that into their financial planning process. So I'm still working with financial advisors, and I'm basically helping with training, products, marketing, things like that. Mimi?
Yep. I just want to make sure I'm on microphone. So, hi everybody. My name is Mimie Yoon-Lee, and currently I'm with High Tower Advisors, which is an RIA. But I started my financial services career in Lincoln Financial at Lincoln Financial, and currently, as you can tell, I have a little bit of a weird background. Is because I'm just coming off of a meeting here, our investment forum. So that was a really great opportunity to meet with our advisors, but let me just give you a little bit of background. So I started in the financial services industry sort of by happenstance. So I was working at the Gap and had decided to get out of the Gap, get out of retail because I didn't like the hours, and somehow found a way that my manager at the store that I was working at, his fiance had an opening at a financial services firm called Cigna Financial Advisors. And so with that, interviewed, and it's interesting because my background and my degree is in finance, but I didn't go into finance immediately because I had the Gap. So from there, I got hired to work with an advisor, and from there was able to really understand the business soup to nuts. And there's always the academic side of financial services, but then there is the practical side. And so I was able to really understand and learn the business from the ground up. Worked not only at a advisor's practice, but then I evolved into a more national role. And today, so what Lincoln Financial is more of an insurance broker dealer, but today I'm with an RIA, registered investment advisor. So I'm able to see a different side to the business. And let me just tell you, in financial services, there's so many different facets. All of us here on the call represent many different facets. And again, like Cheryl just joined a new firm. I also joined a new firm. My affiliation with Hightower Advisors is about a little over a year now. So definitely has been an exciting new change for me, and I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's been great to be able to develop what I have learned in my past, which is around fee-based financial planning. And if you ever spend a few minutes with me, you'll know that I'm very passionate about that, because I don't believe that you can prescribe a solution without understanding the client situation. And so that's my personal mantra and my personal belief. And so that's what I'm able to continue to do today at Hightower, and really cultivate based on my experiences in the past. And now I can continue to bring that experience to today's world. And on my team that I have, we have different services and solutions that we're able to provide. And one of my cornerstones is around insurance and annuities. So I still get to talk about that, and also planning. So I still get to talk and live and breathe it, but also be able to do it in a little bit of a different context. So it's been great to have that experience. So that is my world. John, I'm going to hand it over to you. By the way, John, I have to say, I have a lot of friends whose kids are going to the University of Tennessee, the Vols, right? Is that right? The Volunteers?
That's right. The Volunteers.
So
Also known as the
connected to you
Vols.
somehow.
That's right. If you find me on Facebook, John D. Richardson on Facebook, you'll see my dog's reaction as I was losing my mind as Tennessee beat Alabama, and I was actually at my neighbor's house, and I brought my dog Piper over, and she looked at me. She's like, she's never heard. I was very excited, obviously, and my dog looked at me like, "Daddy, that's not the normal noise you make." For obvious reasons.
You don't normally beat Alabama.
I know, right? Yeah. So if there are any Alabama fans on the call, it's all good. You guys are the better team long term, of course. You'll win next year. But this is our year, so we're just going to enjoy and bask in the moment, right?
John, I was going to say we don't have any volunteers who are actually signed up for Future Leaders for this year, so we need to change that. But we do have some Alabama people who are attending. I don't know if any of them are on the call, but they may be watching this on demand.
Well, perhaps next time in Knoxville, I need to link you up with some folks in Knoxville then to make that happen. So my story. Hi, I'm John Richardson, born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Went to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Got a degree, get this, in political science with a minor in Spanish. Never thought in a million years I'd be in this industry. Fun fact, when I was in college, I had the best summer job a kid could have. I sold books and Bibles door to door. Not one summer or 2 summers, but I did it for 5 summers. Now, who in their right mind knocks on strangers' doors, selling books and Bibles door to door? I did. And from that experience, I fell in love with talking to strangers, decided to go into a career that basically started, did doing this 17 years. Before I started the path as a financial advisor, I worked for a guy named Dave Ramsey. I could ask you a show of hands, how many of you guys have heard of Dave Ramsey? I can't see y'all. Oh, okay, Michael, who just joined, he raised his hand. So there we go. So y'all know who Dave is. And so for 2 years, part of his team, as you can tell, I'm naturally enthusiastic. Oh, Michael's too, okay. So they'd put me on a plane, fly me out to a city 2 months prior to Dave's live event. My job is to promote his message of hope, get folks excited about coming to the event, and then we'd sell out the event. And so that's what I did. But at some point, you make a decision in life. Do I want to be a W-2 employee the rest of my life, or do I want to be an entrepreneur? And so I just, instead of working for the man, I wanted to be the man. And I mean that in the kindest, most humble way. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur and start something. So in 2005, I started my career path in the financial services industry. I've been doing it ever since. First 10 years with one company, the Equitable Life Insurance Company, which Miles is familiar with because he's got an internship with them. Then I made a shift over to Guardian, and now I'm with a company by the name of Mass Mutual. My business has shifted from product-oriented sales, find a need, fill the need, transactional in nature, to planning, to now, much like Mimie, I do fee-based planning. So for the last 3 years, I charge for my time. And then on the back end, after people implement they want to implement the solutions, they can come back and we can offer them the insurances or investments that they need. But if they want to take our great advice and do it themselves, or they want to use their cousin or somebody else, I've already been compensated for my time, so I don't feel like I'm out anything if I invest a ton of time in them. So that's that. That's all I got for now. There's plenty of other stuff, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions. but I'm an example of somebody who doesn't belong to this industry because political science, Spanish, had nothing to do with this industry, but obviously, bigger picture, I'm in, and I love what I do because every day matters. Every day is a gift. So I get a chance to be present with people, help them live their best lives, and make wise decisions with their finances. So with that, I'm going to throw the ball over to Mr. Mustachio, the one, the only, Derek Scheetz. Derek?
Well, thank you for that very wonderful introduction, John. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Derek Scheetz. We appreciate your time this early afternoon for you East Coasters and late morning for everyone else. I'm with Lifetime Financial Growth. I'm going to start where I'm at right now and then rewind back to the beginning really quick. So Lifetime Financial Growth, we're a privately held wealth management firm based in the Midwest. We are in Ohio and all the contiguous states with 240 plus advisors across that region. I've been with Lifetime Financial Growth for 5 years now, and I have been overly thrilled with where I am and the process that I created along the way. So it all started when I was an undergrad at Ohio State. Go Bucks. Got the shirt here. And I actually was born at Ohio State Medical Center. I grew up in Columbus, graduated from Ohio State, and have not lived outside of Columbus my entire life. I don't know if that says anything about me or not, but I love Central Ohio. I love the Midwest. I love all 4 seasons. I do really enjoy traveling to the South, but I really enjoy what we have up here. But nonetheless, I was an undergrad at Ohio State, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And at that time, I was working all sorts of odd jobs when I was taking my elective credits, getting all of that out of the way. I worked at a beer drive-through. I worked as a valet, parking cars on Friday and Saturday nights. And then I was getting closer to graduation, and I actually figured out a degree, and the path was consumer and family financial management. And at the time, I had no idea what that actually meant. I didn't have a family. I didn't even think of myself as a consumer. I was a student. I barely bought anything. Here we go. So I asked my advisor, what path would you take that I'm close enough to getting out that has some mathematics with it that may end up being fun for me? And that was the suggestion. It turns out it was a perfect suggestion, because within the first quarter at Ohio State, within my major, I knew this was where I wanted to be. I got along very well with my classmates and the professors, and I felt like it was just a path that was made for me. So I was 3 quarters away from graduating, and I was taking 20 credit hours, believe it or not, on quarters, it was quite a lot at the time, but I felt bored. So I started working as a surgical technician for my father, who was a recently retired oral surgeon. And I actually really enjoyed doing that. So I graduate and I don't pursue a career in financial services, which is kind of odd. I actually continued working as a surgical technician for him for 2.5 more years, believe it or not. I realized at the time that I was at the ceiling when it came to income. I wasn't overly passionate about what I was doing. I really enjoyed it. But to me, there was no really long-term path for me within that realm. So I started to just look for a job, to be perfectly frank, to just look for a job. And I fell on 3 separate companies for interviews, and I interviewed with all 3, and I fell on a company called Forrester's Financial Services. It was a blessing in disguise, to be perfectly honest, because I had no idea I really wanted to be in financial services, having spent 2.5 years after graduating, not in the industry. So I started learning the industry and the business of financial services. And at the same time, I was studying to get some licensing, and I was getting paid to get some licensing, which is very rare in our industry. And out of the gates, I was going and meeting people, and we were taught on how to help figure out where we can help. And throughout that process, I learned that this is a lot of fun. I'm getting to meet a lot of people every day, and I get to help people. I didn't realize how much you can change someone's life within financial services. I always knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know in what capacity I could do it. So Forrester's Financial was a wonderful stepping stone. And to be honest, I thought that's where I was going to be long term. Fast forward 12 months later, I have two very close friends from high school reach out to me, and they introduced me to a privately held wealth management firm called Lifetime Financial Growth. What I didn't realize at the time when I was at Forrester's was we were very product centric. We were, what is the hot product this week? It was not about process. It was not about how can we help this individual over the long haul. It's more of what can we do right here and now to potentially help them, but more or less help us. And it was not, to me, a long-term way of growing a business. So when I met the two guys I went to high school with Lifetime Financial Growth, we had a brief conversation about the differences between the two, and I was sold within 10 minutes. It was about planning and process, not product and what is hot right now. So within another week, I made the transition from Forrester's to Lifetime Financial Growth, and then that's where I am today. So that was almost 5 years ago. I have thoroughly enjoyed where I'm at. And Emily, I don't know if you want me to go into the niche market at all right now, or wait on that for a little bit.
Yeah, well, one thing that I actually, listening to all four of you talk and reminding me of a conversation that I had with some of the students during Gamma Iota Sigma, and I don't know if any of them are on the call, excuse me, or if they're going to be listening to the recording, but it's interesting because all of you have had career shifts, fairly recently, and as far as company shifts. And one of the questions that was being discussed with the students I was talking to was about, they were talking to different companies at Gamma Iota Sigma and trying to identify their, what the culture was like and how they're going to fit into the culture of a particular organization. Derek, you had mentioned that you interviewed with 3 companies, and why was it that you decided that Forrester's was the best fit for you and things like, so maybe if you guys can kind of hit on that type of element because that was really one of the things that that resonated. And in some of the Gamma Iota Sigma surveys, that as students are setting forth their career goals or internships and externships and things like that, culture is a very important part of what this generation of future advisors and agents are considering. So if you want to hit on something about that quick.
Yeah, absolutely, if I may. That brought up a very good memory of the reason why I chose Forrester's. So I won't name the other 2 companies. They are actually fine companies. They're doing business or helping people. But what I really picked on as the biggest difference was when I was initially interviewing with each individual company, it was Forrester's was a very warming interview where I didn't feel like I was pressured to work there. They wanted me to, but at the same time, they understood if I were to have said no. Whereas the other 2 companies, it felt like I was being sold. I was being sold a used car that I didn't want. That was the biggest thing on the front end. But what happened throughout the interview process is Forrester's also had 2 young gentlemen and 1 young gal that were all my age or roughly within 3 years of my age, that were all in the same kind of area in life where we had no idea what we wanted to do, but we kind of did. And when we all 4 we had interviewed together on a second interview with no management. It was just the 4 of us having a conversation, and that was a unique thing. All 4 of us stuck with it. All 4 of us got the job, and that to me was probably the biggest differentiating factor. Is I had what I considered camaraderie right from the get-go. I didn't feel like I was the only individual that was working towards something. I had people that were with me. And don't get me wrong, you can do this on your own, but it really helps to have other people around you. Not so much for the knowledge, that's very important, but also to keep your mind focused on everything else. So that was the biggest thing that made me understand why Forrester's was different than the other 2. I felt that camaraderie from the get-go. I don't think camaraderie is the right term. That sounds more of like we're going to have a few drinks together. But it was a warming experience. And that was the biggest thing for me.
You know, my background, Derek, is I also was a recruiter for many years. And being in a position of recruiter, my job was to find the right people to join our firm, to join our culture. And what I found over the years is having that camaraderie, having the people, the right people, like what they say, right people on the bus, right? So you got to have the right people around you, and the right mentors around you to look up to, and that are willing to teach you. I don't think it's necessarily about the company. So the fact that you have opportunities with several different companies, and one person might say one thing about a company, or you hear bad reviews or good reviews on another company, it all comes down to who is in your circle. And so taking those interviews, and regardless of the company name, go check them out, see you know, how their culture is, how they're helpful with training and hiring, and who do you have to work off of. Like Derek had a couple partners to kind of go along and go through the pains, the learning pains, and you know, with him, and they could grow together. And it's not necessarily, like I said, the company. It's finding the right people around you. And I think that's pretty common in our industry, is having the right group and team with you.
Absolutely.
I kind of look at it twofold, just to sort of piggyback off of both what Derek and Cheryl just said is, you know, there at my first firm at Lincoln Financial, there was definitely a deep culture, the serve first philosophy where clients come first. Don't worry about the money because it'll follow if you do what's passionate and what's right for the client. You're helping them make good decisions. Um, but by the same token, what I've observed over the years is that advisors definitely not only have maybe the company culture, but they also have their own individual culture, their own practice. And that practice might be where they're serving the retirement community, those who are trying to become retirees successfully, right? And so what does that mean for them? Are they always leading by planning? Are they always making sure that the products that they choose are not only the right fit, but the most cost friendly for them? So I think culture can exist not only from a company perspective, but you develop your own culture, right? Your own authenticity of what you want to bring to your clients. And that's how you build your relationships with your clients. So some people might want to work with you because you have a certain philosophy around your practice. Others will say, not really a good fit. I'm looking for somebody who's going to really get me 32% return on the market, which is not true. But my point is that, you know, it just depends on how you build your own culture for your practice, as well as what you might have because of the company providing that culture as well with all their advisors and employees.
So my take on this, when it comes to culture, I would say be the thermostat, not the thermometer. So you are in control of your environment, and you're not just recording. So I am a proactive. I happen to things versus things happening to me. So I would say figure out what your purpose or calling is in this industry, and then go find a tribe of people that have a similar view or values, and then go do life and go do it 110% more than you thought possible, and just be all in. So whatever that is, it may take you a minute to get there, but once you figure that out, and these are the people you want to do life with, all in. And you'll have no regrets. You won't wake up 10, 15 years later going, why did I waste all that time doing this or that, trying to pursue this that wasn't a good fit? Figure out what your purpose is, and then go find the people that have like similar passions, and you're going to have more fun. You are your own culture, your own environment, because this, depending on if you are working in the support role or if you're on the producer role. If you're on the producer role, then it's most of the times it is either going to be self-employed situation where you'll be straight commission, or you'll be on a fee-based situation where you're gathering assets or you're charging fees or whatever the case may be. So if you are at a W-2 situation, you're on the administrative side, there's nothing wrong with that. That's when you'd actually type into an office. But most folks these days, I mean, we're meeting via Zoom here because COVID happened back in 2020, and now we're custom using Zoom, and it's very easy. Most of my client meetings are being Zoom, so just figure out what you want in life and go get as much of it as you can, and go align yourself with people with similar values and visions, including your clients and also those people in your life.
And by the way, the path is not going to be straight. It's not ever going to be straight. I mean, you just heard all of us say we started here, but we ended here. And even in that authenticity or that culture journey, tomorrow it might be X, but then 5 years from now it might be Y. And so it just really depends. So don't ever look at your pathway as it's not doing, it's not right. It is right. You're making decisions for a reason, and it'll lead you down to the next path. So never, it is a frustrating business, but it's also really an awesome business because you know you're helping people, whether you're in that administrative role or you're in that advisor role, front facing. But the path will not be straight. So I just want to remind you all of that.
And that's true because, you know, a lot, if you just look at us on the call, a lot of us had really no idea of our path and really had no idea where we would be today based on our path. I mean, a lot of us fell into the industry, and that's not uncommon to hear from a lot of successful people in our industry, is that they kind of fell into it, or they didn't necessarily know, or one path led to another. And here they are, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. I mean, a lot of people have been very successful in this career, and so I commend you guys are already on, you know, a track to looking at it. And it's okay if you don't know your why and you don't know your passion at this point. I mean, I didn't even know I was serious about this industry for until my college gave me credit for attending and having a license. And then I was like, well, this is pretty cool. I get to, you know, get some credit without having to take a course. So you know, I didn't know I was serious about this until you figure out your why, and that's okay if you don't have it. You'll figure that out as your path expands and where life leads you.
My first job at Lincoln, I thought I'll be here for 5 years because I heard in college like you'll change jobs 11 times. I thought, oh my gosh, well I better hurry up and get going. So after 5 years, I thought, all right, I'm going to learn what I can. I'm going to move on. Well, I stayed there for about 20 years. So, but I found my path in many different ways at the one firm. I did so many things that it did give me such a great breadth of experience. And I ultimately found what my passion was, right, within the firm. And that was around that serve first philosophy and doing comprehensive financial planning, estate planning for clients.
And yeah, to piggyback off of Mimie, it starts with whatever you want it to be. And if you want that to be what you want it to be, serve first. That was exactly what Mimie wanted. She's still doing exactly that. But it took her Lincoln Financial Group or distributors or whatever to get to where she is today. It took me, Forrester's Financial, and figuring out what I wanted to do as an undergrad to get to where I'm at today. And again, the path is typically never going to be straight. It may be zigzag, it may be up and down, it may be sideways, you may be on a different plane at some point. But at the end of the day, if you continue to be passionate about your why, and again, as Cheryl alluded to, you may not know what that why is yet. Once you figure that out, continue to be passionate about it, and you're going to fall into whatever you want. You will end up doing exactly what you want with who you want, and you're going to be handsomely rewarded for it. And you're going to be able to help a lot of people doing it along the way.
Have lots of conversations with people in the industry. I can speak for myself. If anybody wants to have a one-on-one call, love to have that with you. And I always say, inspect what you expect, right? So if you want to look at where your practice is or what your role is in the financial services industry, and again, I don't know who said, I think maybe it was Cheryl, I didn't even know financial services was a thing. I knew finance, but that was more around business and corporate. But what it meant to be an advisor for a client, to help them with life insurance or to help them with, forget life insurance, that's the product, right? Think about what their legacy needs are or what they want to do. They want to be able to retire when they're 60 and be able to vacation every year. Well, that's a real thing. How do we help them with that pathway? And we know that we've got products to help them, but that's to me like the why for me of why being in this industry is because we're helping people realize their goals and dreams. But always inspect what you expect. So make sure you're getting out there, having the conversations, look at all aspects. Financial services, literally, I don't even know what the number is, but I feel like it's hundreds of different facets of how you could be affiliated with financial services, whether you're a practice manager for a group, or you are the claims person, or you're the person who manages the underwriting for life insurance. I mean, there's so many facets. So don't stop until you find something you really like.
And
That's
Mimi
like
offered up a
oh, sorry, go
good
ahead,
thing
Chair.
about reaching out. So if you have questions, I mean, any one of us are welcome or are more than happy to help. And I think a couple of people have already reached out to us, and LinkedIn is a great source for that. You know, and it's always interesting. I personally like to hear people's stories on how they got into the industry and find out what their passion is, what experience led them to where they are today. So feel free to ask. I don't know too many, you know, if people are too busy, they won't answer, but I promise there's going to be people who will answer. And those are the people that want to give back. And those are the people that you could really learn, you know, why are they do what they do to make a difference in people's lives, and how do they help others achieve their financial goals and their dreams, and how that can incorporate into your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I guess if each of you kind of want to talk about, I know Derek, one of the things that where you have found success in your career has really been you know, differentiating yourself by having that niche market and things like that. So you want to talk a little bit about you know, kind of marketing yourself, you know, building your client base, things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Emily. So I alluded earlier to working as a surgical tech for my father, who is a recently retired oral surgeon. When I got into financial services, I didn't have a market I wanted to work with. I just went out and talked to anyone and everyone who would listen to me. It worked quite well for a very decent period of time, but at the end of the day, I tried to make myself the jack of all trades. What I learned from trying to be the jack of all trades is you end up not being strong in any one specific area. And it's not fair to your clients to be that person. So what I realized 3.5 years ago, I remember the day it happened. I actually had an advisor from our Cincinnati office reach out to me asking about a fishing trip, believe it or not. And we just started talking, and it turns out that he's been working with the dental community for 25 years. The guy's 62 now. And he had a very brief question about something about a dentist in Columbus. I'm like, oh, I absolutely know that person. And he asked me, well, do you want to be a part of my team? And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, well, I've been creating this team of advisors that work exclusively with dental and medical professionals. I had a lot of interest right out of the gate. So I more or less interviewed for the position. I was asking Rich questions about how this would benefit me and what he's looking for out of me in this role. And it turns out it was just a impeccable time, because we were just introduced. My sister had just graduated from dental school. We were just introduced to the new president of one of the dental fraternities. And what I did was I just started sponsoring events, small stuff in the beginning, you know, a couple $100 here and there to, you know, have a table set up or bring food in or whatever it may be. And that led into sponsoring tailgates for an entire dental class. And what that has done is it's created a what we call a niche market. Instead of casting a wide net that's going to cross the entire ocean, we're fishing deep into one specific spot, because we know that's the area that we know. And what I've learned throughout the past 4 or 5 years is, unless you focus on a specific area, you're going to continue to you're going to run up a treadmill that's never going to stop. You will never have the ability to be the foremost authority in anything. So having the background in dentistry, having some family members that are dentists, but also having worked as a surgical technician, that's how I made my way into the dental school at Ohio State. So now I present to the entire dental school, well, at least individual classes, you know, a few times a year. I sponsor some large events a few times a year. And what I've learned is bluebirds fly with bluebirds. If you want to work with a specific group of people, well, just work with them. and learn the business, learn what they do on a daily basis, learn how they talk to their other people within the industry, whether it's engineers, accountants, attorneys, dentists, physicians. It doesn't matter what the industry is. Learn the industry that they're in so you can be a part of those conversations. And bluebirds fly with bluebirds. They talk to each other as well. You will learn recommendations and referrals become quite easy if you do what's right for the client and you work in an area, as I alluded to, the dental client. And that's really where my career started, this more upward trajectory. I was like this for the first couple of years, some good years, some were not so good. And consistency came right after that. And once you get consistency and predictability, the sky's the limit. And that's really what it started with, was me figuring out what industry, what niche I wanted to spend most of my time, effort, and energy focusing on.
Awesome. Anybody, any of our other panels have any, kind of similar experiences or, ways to differentiate yourself and accelerate your career?
I mean, I'll agree with Derek. I think if you find your passion and you get involved, one of the things I always say to my advisors is don't just join a group just to join a group because you think that that's where all the rich people are. That's not a way to build a business. You really have to build it because you're passionate about the organization, or you want to you have something to contribute back. And naturally through conversations you can find opportunities, but Derek is spot on. I mean, you want to get involved and be involved in a specific niche if that's your passion. And it might be those who are like, people who love old vintage cars, and that's where you build your business. It might be that you like to work with people who like to golf every weekend, and you start a group. So there's just different ways. I actually had an advisor who, just as a marketing thing, he would find clients because he would go every Friday, just play on. So in other words, he didn't have a foursome. He just said, I'm a single, put me in a group. And if you're at the country club, likelihood you're going to find somebody who's in your niche, the kind of client you want to work with, is high. And so he was able to find several clients because of that methodology. Play on, and gets to play golf because he loves it, but he also gets to meet people who are likely in his niche.
And I think that's one of the best things about this career in this industry is that you have flexibility. You can build flexibility to do things like if you seriously wanted to play golf every week, that you could do that. I just recently went through a life change. I became a mom, and having the flexibility of having a family is great in this industry, in this career. And you can have a natural market just from that. I know that my surroundings are going to change. The things I do are going to change. I'm going to be meeting a ton of new people and having new routines and things like that. So you can incorporate your life into your market and where you want to focus your niche.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone on this call would agree that that the flexibility of this career path is probably one of the biggest appealing reasons for getting into this. So I'm going to ask one more question of the group, and then we'll open it up to questions from the team. But why do you love this career?
Can I go ahead and I'll answer this because I do have a crying baby in the background. He's only 6 weeks old, so he's still we're still adjusting to routines. But I'd love to share my why I love this industry. Like I said, I just had a life change, but I mean I've gone through a couple of different life changes, and that's what life is. It's full of uncertainties, and I became a widow at age 38, and I'm a new mom at age 43. So everyone has different life changes that they go through. And one of the things that going through those experiences, being in this career for so long, I can see the importance of working with and working with someone in this industry to help you with your finances, whether or not it's things like life insurance. But like Mimie said, it's not necessarily about product, but it's about finding out what your goals are, and the ability of me to have experienced such major life changes. I mean, it all revolves around finances. So one of the reasons why I love this industry is the fact that we have the ability to help people achieve their financial goals and their dreams, and also be prepared for the uncertainties that happen, because we are all going to experience things in our lives that are not planned. And if you are working with your clients, you could be that individual that can help them through those hard times, by simply just having a plan and being able to help them make difficult financial decisions, or just making small steps to making any financial decision that's going to put them in a better position than they are now.
Well, thank you, Cheryl. I will jump in there briefly because I feel this is the best industry, the best business there is. I don't know. I mean, I can explain it in 100 different ways, but I'm just going to use today as a perfect example of why this business is so great. I had 4 client meetings scheduled today. All 4 were scheduled via Zoom. My wife left for Chicago with our 1-year-old yesterday to visit her brother and sister-in-law, and I'm watching our 3-month-old. And I didn't know how I was going to do that if I was in the office. Well, sure enough, I have the ability to work from home. Not only that, I have the ability to work from home with my daughter here, and my clients understand if something were to happen. So if they hear crying, Cheryl, that's a perfect example. We totally understand that you have something to do, but not only that, we have the freedom to be able to make those decisions, as opposed to having someone tell us you have to be here right then and right whatever the time may be. You have the freedom to create your own schedule. Now you have to be disciplined, because if you let it go a little more free, then you will end up working yourself out of the industry. But you have the freedom to do what you want when you want. You just have to be able to plan for it. And that's what we do. We plan for people's financial futures. Not only that, we plan for our own. So I tell the interns this every single summer when they come in: whether you end up in this industry or not, you will leave this internship knowing much, much more about how to plan for your personal financial future than any of your friends. So that to me is a big why. It's the freedom, the flexibility, and it's the ability to be whoever you want to be with whatever group of people you want to be it with.
I'll go back to my why, which is around helping people. I always want to help people. There's a different like personality test. I'm the one that's like the mediator. I want to help everybody. I want to make sure everybody's great. And so with what we do in financial services, and I said it earlier, which is doesn't matter what your role is, you're helping people, and I think that's so important. So if you have a passion around helping people, frankly, if you have a money drive, you love money, you love to make money. That's another part of it. But really, if you have a passion around being a business owner and helping people, and just giving back. I mean, look at us here. We're all in different areas of the country where we have different passions around how we serve our clients, but we serve our clients, right? But we all, yeah. I mean, that's the common thread, is that we like to help people and we like to help each other, and that's why we also have offered ourselves to be a resource for you as well. I know that when I was in college, I wish I had this for myself so that I could have questions I could ask and just be connected to those who have led the way before me, right? So that I can hear and kind of gather my data and like make decisions for myself because I'm well informed. So
there's an author named Stephen Covey, and I'm going to share with you guys some ideas. If you have a pen and paper handy, Michael, I noticed you had a pen I think it was in your right hand. Yes, sir. And so if you want to take a couple of notes down, I want to share with you guys some thoughts and some books that I read. So why do I do this business? Stephen Covey talks about 4 things: to live, to love, to learn, and to leave a legacy. I love the life I live, and I get to live the life I choose to live because of this industry. It affords me the opportunity to have the lifestyle I want to have, the flexibility and freedom to do those things, to work with those people I want to work with, all that good stuff. To love, I love my clients and they love me, and we get to do life together. And it's exciting knowing that every morning I wake up and I get a chance to connect with via Zoom or in person with people who I truly care about. And there's some people you're just getting to know them and you're loving them unconditionally and they just don't get you yet. But then once they get you, they're like, oh my gosh, how have I not done life with you without you? And so it's that kind of that connection that comes. To learn, I love learning. And if you are you love to learn and think and you like to read books, this industry is a never-ending place to go and to learn more about taxes, learn more about planning, learn more about life and how everything works together. Investments and how people their emotions affect their financial decisions, all that good stuff. And legacy, that's what we're in the business of doing, is helping people cash flow plan for today, but also leave a positive legacy for their families, so that when our time on earth is done, you don't leave a mess for those folks behind. You actually leave them better than the way you found them. And that's the kind of planning that we do, is help people leave a legacy. So Stephen Covey, live, love, learn, leave a legacy. That's why I do what I do.
That's awesome. Cheryl is still on. She's just off camera. So just so you guys know, taking care of her little 6-week-old. But I'd like to open it up to questions for the group. This is a great opportunity. You've got 4 phenomenal individuals who are leaders within their community, leaders within their companies, leaders within the NAFA family, to ask some questions and get some real insights from these individuals. So if you want to use the chat feature or unmute yourself or however.
Bailey, you're up.
I'll go first.
Sure. Michael can go if he has a question.
Yes. So, oh, go ahead. Yeah, I didn't know you started talking. Go ahead.
No, you've got it. I can go next. You're fine.
Okay. So first of all, I wanted to say that I might take up the offer by reaching out to Mimie, Cheryl, and everybody else. And when you talked about Derek, please, when you talked about the niche market, I'm guessing you're talking about maybe dentists, you playing golfers or nurses and stuff like that. But are you dealing with one particular product or just general product? It's just that you have a niche market. And
Yeah,
then,
that's it. Oh, sorry, keep going. Sorry.
and
I'll wait for
then
the
the second
part.
question to that's it's actually not a question. The Steve about Stephen Covey, live, love, learn, live, love, learn, leave a legacy. Is that the title of the book, or this is just something that was in the book?
So I'll let John answer that question real quick, and then I'll jump in and answer the first question.
Okay.
So Stephen Covey has written several books, and that theme runs through all of his books. So you can't go wrong. Just go. I think it's Stephen M. Covey. He passed away, and his son is now writing books. But anyway, just go Google Covey and books, and you'll find those common themes throughout all of his books.
Okay, thank you.
And then to answer your question, the first question there, Michael, that is a great question. So big picture, the niche market was specifically working with the dental professionals. But what I've done is I typically meet them when they're graduating from dental school, because the number one, their greatest asset at that time is their future ability to earn an income. So we talk about income protection and disability income insurance. That's how I create them make them a client. From there, I ultimately want to make them a holistic financial planning client. Mm-hmm. That's ultimately the goal. But in the beginning stage, it is somewhat product driven in protecting their future ability to earn that income, so that no matter what, all that cash flow that they would have in the future is going to end up on their balance sheet no matter what, even in the worst case scenario. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much. And thank you, John, also.
My pleasure.
Hey guys, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for talking to us and pouring into us today. But for my question, it would be, for someone wanting to go into the financial planning field, what would some of you guys say would be some of the best entry-level jobs for us students to be looking out for when going into our career search or to get started in this industry?
I'll start. I think if you find a customer service role, if you're into portfolio management, you could like work as an assistant to a portfolio manager. If you and by the way, starting off in a planner's practice or an advisor's practice is also a very good way to learn the business because you're seeing it at the ground level. You're seeing it really at the end client solution side, right? And then you can always back into maybe a corporate role, but there's a lot of internships that are out there as well. And it seems like and I wish I had this in college. There was sort of an internship season. And so we had one just recently. It was June, July, August timeframe. So, my team had a couple of interns that joined. And it's a good way. One of them came away and said, "This was great, but I know I don't want to do this anymore." So that was a good aha moment for her. But so I would say those are some places if you can just get in and do some internships or some of these entry level jobs. I think it's just a good way just to feel what it looks like on the client side and what it looks like to work with clients. Because I think again that's the end goal here is to help the clients.
Mimie had a lot of really good points there. Specifically, it's a matter of just figuring it out now, not so much figuring out the big picture now, but trying things out now, and ultimately figuring out what you don't like more than what you do like. I think is really important because then you know what to avoid moving forward. But really, there are so many different roles you can start with. In my mind, one of the best would be either an assistant to an advisor or quote unquote a young advisor or a junior advisor, if you will, that is in on every single meeting with that senior advisor that's learning the business throughout the process, because you have to know what you're doing long term if you want to stay in the business long term. If you want to continue to help people, you need to learn from someone that has the experience, but you also have to eventually be able to do it on your own. So where are you going to find a mentor that is going to help you along the way, and also not just try and push you, but pull you up from the beginning, because the beginning of this career can be really tough. You need someone there that's going to help you with morale as well. So having those two things coupled with potentially finding a job that's going to pay you, even if unfortunately you're not producing early, either get paid a draw or sometimes you can get paid as a W-2 employee until you end up getting your licensing and different things like that. So look for different opportunities and don't just fall on one specific thing because you think it's right. Try other things out first as well.
John, any insights?
Yeah, Bailey, I just put some book recommendations in the chat for all y'all, and just to highlight why I put them in there. What Color is Your Parachute is the #1 book for career people looking to figure out what they want to do with their life. We talked about purpose, why you're here, what you're doing. That book basically step-by-step walks you through a process to figure out what you're hardwired to do. It's a great book. It's been around forever. Billions of copies sold. Google it. You can't miss it. It's a must read. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is the book I read that put me on the path to being in this industry. It talks about how money works, talks about how cash flow goes through a person's life, and that's an easy read. It tells his story. The Common Denominator of Success, the book I read while I was in college, which is, I'll give you the answer, which is successful people form the habit of doing those things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. It's a short little baby book. You can find it online real easy. It takes you probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes to read it. Highly recommend it. Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David is much like a master chess player, and you play the game of chess. You're not just thinking the next move in life, but you're thinking the next 5 moves. That's a book I've recently read, and I highly recommend it because it gets your brain thinking differently in life. And the last one is Money Grows on Trees by Jeremy Newsom. There's 2 different mindsets in life. There's a scarcity mindset and an abundance mindset. I live in an abundance mindset. So I want to give. I want to serve, and I want to find opportunities when there's something like I want to buy something. Perhaps if I want to buy a new iPhone, I'm like, gosh, I don't have the cash to pay for it. Instead of thinking I can't afford it, my brain goes to how can I afford it? And you go and you find ways to make things happen. because I believe that there's plenty of opportunities out there to serve plenty of people. If I'm not a good fit with one person, that's okay. There's plenty of other people to help. So those are some books I would recommend reading, because there's two things you need to know. One is know yourself. Look inward, figure out why you're here. Once you know yourself and you have a good idea, look at the working world around you and go find a career that aligns with your personal values in life. So if you know yourself and you know what's around you, go grab a mentor, grab lunch with them, ask them what the typical day is. And then you wake up a couple years later like, holy cow, who'd have thought I'd have this much exponential growth? Because you live life intentionally. You lived it on purpose. So that would be my final thoughts, Bailey, to your question. Instead of just interviewing different companies, don't go online, find it. Go find out what you're passionate about and go create that opportunity for yourself. And go find people that are already doing what you're doing, winning in that space, and become best friends with them.
Can I add a book onto John's list of books? It's not really financial services oriented, but it's Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg's book. That was pivotal for me in corporate America, and just to sort of understand what I need and what I want. And so, if you haven't read that book, I know there's been some people who would say that's a great book, others say it's not. So you'll have to make your own decision. But I really felt it was an important book for me.
You said Sheryl Sandberg?
Sheryl Sandberg. Yeah, she used to be the
And the title?
CEO. Lean In.
Lean In. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Have a seat at the table.
Yeah, and I'll actually put those in our recap. I'll put those book titles in there. We are at the top of the hour, so I want to be respectful of our participants' time. I know a lot of you have some class to go to. I know Miles left because he had to go to class, but he did want to do a shout out, Derek, because your stash is on point. So Miles, I did your shout out for you. So want to again thank everyone for being here. Next week is our last session. I know it's gone really fast, 4 weeks. So we've got Chris Gandy, who's going to kind of close it out and talk about being the 1%. I actually was with Chris Gandy on Tuesday for an event in Chicago that NAVA had. And, Chris is the #1 producer at One America. So, I mean, he's really got some great tips for, differentiating yourself, being that 1%, having that motivation, staying on top of your game. And there's something, and he actually had a pretty famous teammate that he played basketball with. You may have heard of him. His name's Michael Jordan. So Chris has got a fantastic story. Look forward to seeing all of you again next week, whether you're watching this on demand or watching us live. We thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week.
And real quick, guys,
Everyone.
just find us on LinkedIn, send us a message if you have any additional questions.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.